here to talk about Kong Skull Island. What?
Welcome,
Spider-Man?
everybody, to episode 2 of the Parker Chronicles podcast, where we review movies in all sorts of forms. We don't hold punches here. I gotta look at the other screen. To my left or right is the co-host, my brother in arms, Nemesis Angel, and our guest for the second week is none other than the best couple on Twitch, DNA Gaming. Thank you for joining once again.
Oh, no, thank you for having us.
And hopefully for the next couple weeks as well, as we finish out the Monsterverse. Today is a great day because I love this movie. And I can't wait to talk about it. Today we are talking about Kong Skull Island, released March 10th, 2017, directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts, who is let's see, what is other stuff that he has directed before this? Probably should have done that research. He is most famous for a movie called The Kings of Summer. Never seen it. I've heard good things about it. But also, I think most important is he is slated to be the director, or he is the director of the upcoming Metal Gear Solid movie, starring Oscar Isaac as Snake. Also, this came out on the 18th of April. He is set to direct a Gundam movie for Netflix and Legendary Pictures, which I'm guessing you guys are very excited. I don't know. I'm not a Gundam guy. I don't know much about Gundam, but I mean,
why are you shaking your head?
More Gundam and
Just kidding.
and kaiju movies. Let's bring it all on.
Heck yeah.
Well, I'm optimistic for him because of how this movie turned out, but I just hope they do it right. I just got a feeling they're just going to screw it up like they do every time they get their hands on this. We can do it, but we could do it better, and they like completely change the tone or the message of this film.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We'll see.
Right. No, I get it. Sorry about that. So what are your thoughts on this movie? Let's start with our guests.
You have thoughts? You should say words.
I do have thoughts. I liked it a lot. Like, the whole... I don't want to give away too much. Let's just say certain...
It's good for you.
No. Listen. We're reviewing this. Listen, there's full spoilers. You can talk about whatever you want right now, and we're still going to talk about them later. So just say what you want to say.
Oh, the first time you really see Kong with the helicopters, I get chills every single time. And you know, Tom Hiddleston is,
he's a gorgeous man. We know.
Yes,
we know.
He is. It's the best interpretation of Kong since 1967. King Kong Escapes.
Oh, okay.
And I'll die on that hill. It's
right.
good. And honestly, after going back and rewatching this, it's my order has slightly changed. I think this is the best MonsterVerse film. It is, in my opinion. Even though I've seen Godzilla vs. Kong twice, I think this is the best one. And I'll put that back on top.
I agree wholeheartedly. This is fantastic. Before Godzilla vs. Kong, this was definitely my number one. All right, Nemesis, hit me. We already talked about it today, but the internet needs to know now.
I don't even know where to start with this one. I don't know. I like we talked about today. It even with just the start, like with them crash landing, it was just. I thought it was very well put together with how they started it to how it progresses into the entire story. It's almost like, I don't know, like when we talked about Godzilla last week, I just think how they started this movie was way bit more put together than Godzilla was. And that, like she said, the entrance, even after the plane crash, that first initial entrance is even cool when they're fighting their little samurai sword and he puts his hands up. It's just gives me the chill. It's pretty cool.
The opening of this movie is fantastic. I love it. I love the whole fight in the beginning between Marlowe and Gunpei Akari. I probably just butchered that name, but the Japanese pilot. which I got some trivia. I got IMDb pulled up, of course, so I got some trivia about the movie. So, fun fact is that the actor who played young Marlowe in the beginning of the movie is the same actor who plays his son at the end.
Is it? I had no idea.
Yes, I looked on IMDb and it showed the actor. I can't recall the actor's name, but it said young Marlowe and then whatever his son's name was.
Britton.
Okay, and I think it said Marlowe's son because he didn't have a name. But yeah, that's really cool. And also Brie Larson doubles as one of the natives on Skull Island. She greets the survivors with a spear. So she actually played like she's in the same scene with herself, with. I love when they do that, and they don't say anything. Like you'll never know unless, somebody is really looking for like a fine tooth comb. Like, oh my God, is that Brie Larson? Like, it's crazy.
I thought you were going to they were going to say in the movie, like, hi, I'm Brie Larson. Me too. Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Okay. My thoughts real quick. I'm not going to say anything in detail, but I love this movie. I really love King Kong as a franchise. Even like the Jessica Lange one back with Jeff Bridges, like it wasn't great, but it was still an enjoyable movie. But I love the original 1932 film. I really do. I've seen it many times, weirdly enough. And I really loved Peter Jackson's remake of that film. I think he did a fantastic job. Andy Serkis, being amazing as always, doing the motion capture for that. But another fun trivia on this movie is the actor who plays, how is it? It's not Conrad. Who did we talk with? Chapman.
It's Chapman.
The actor who plays Chapman does the motion capture for Kong as well.
Really?
In this film. He also did the motion capture for Koba in Rise and what was the second one? Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
I had no idea. That's pretty cool.
He does a lot of motion capture, but I knowing that before. Oh, of course, somebody redeems hydrant when you have a water bottle on me. But knowing that before, and then like the scene where Chapman's washing himself up, and then Kong comes around the corner, and he's got to run and hide behind the rock, and just him looking at it. I always vision it's like him looking at himself, even though he doesn't see anything, of course, because of CGI. Yeah. But I thought it was really cool. It's just really cool to know those facts.
Hey, Brett.
Yeah.
How often do you bathe with octopuses? Just a question.
How often do I bathe with octopuses?
Yeah,
Clearly not enough.
That's actually a reference. That's actually a reference to the original King Kong versus Godzilla, where he fights Odaku at the beginning of the film, the giant octopus, before he gets high on the berry juice.
Oh my God. Every time I would watch like some sort of video on like the original King Kong versus Godzilla, it just, oh my Lord. I love that they did incorporate, but that's for future reference. But yeah, it's funny as hell to watch. I love it. Old Godzilla and old King Kong, so good. I will get to that drink in a second. Chat, don't worry. I will not ignore you this week. I felt like I ignored you a lot last week. We will be taking some small breaks periodically through the stream so I can recognize anyone who's in chat, drops follows, subs, all that fun stuff. So bear with me, okay? If I look too much over there, I will lose my concentration. I will forget what the hell I'm talking about. So my apologies ahead of time to everybody in chat. All right, so are you guys ready to break down this movie?
I'm ready to break it down.
Absolutely.
Listen, this movie starts off with a bang. Like, it's just fantastic. The whole plane crashing in the desert, which is funny enough, we never see again. Like, there's this like giant desert area. Do we ever see it again in the movie?
I thought it was supposed to be the beach.
Oh, okay.
Was it not the beach?
I
don't know.
Okay, maybe it was, but it seemed like it was just a desert. Like, it just looked like a desert area. But it was cool, like them crashing into the desert.
Skull Island has a lot of varied terrain, apparently.
Yes, it's like all over the place. But it's you don't know who this character is yet. But it's an American soldier during World War II, and then a Japanese pilot crashing, and they battle it out, and it's pretty intense. And And then for some reason, when a guy takes out a samurai sword, for one, Marlowe, who we find out that's who it is, his aim is terrible.
Oh God, yeah,
awful. The worst aim.
I mean, he just crashed in a plane. I
understand, that, but I swear to God, I could have hit one. Like it was like he was closing his eyes and didn't, like when you're a pilot in World War II, you're not taught how to shoot a gun, like just the guns that are on the plane, not an actual gun itself.
Magnum. That's all. You just Magnum.
Yes, and it was
I said he'd have a great interview for being a stormtrooper.
Right, exactly. Just throw him that uniform. We're good to go. And yeah, so the what was his name? Gunpei. My apologies for these terrible pronunciations.
Sorry.
He comes at him with his sword, or with the katana. My mistake. And Marlowe grabs it with both hands. And there's a scene. Me and Nemesis were talking about this earlier. There's a scene later, which is probably one of the funniest scenes in this movie, where I don't want to spoil it, but we'll get to it. But it contradicts this whole thing of him holding this katana in his hand, and him, like, I feel like his hands just get sliced right off, depending on how much he grips the blade. They fight. He knocks the sword out of his hand. And they're like fighting each other, rolling around, and then we see Kong for the first time, which is really fast compared to like how long it took us to see Godzilla. I mean, we did see him in the beginning of the movie, but it was, like we said, it was his sails coming out of the water. You know who he is. But Kong's appearance with his hands just slam it is such good cinematography. And I think that's something that all four of these films are so good at, regardless of how mediocre some of these stories are. The cinematography and the CG on these creatures are just fantastic. And this scene just makes me so pumped. It like fills me up with adrenaline, and I'm just like, I'm ready to go. Where Godzilla really didn't have that for me. Like, I was excited for the movie, of course, but this movie just got me. Like, that one scene, I was like, well, let's go. Kong comes out, and I was hooked. Fun fact, in this movie, King Kong, this is the tallest he's been in a film before Godzilla versus Kong. Because he stands he stands at 104 feet in this film.
No, this is not the tallest he's been then.
Okay. Thank you. But yeah, in this film, he stands at 104 feet, which they make him seem so much bigger compared to what you'll see later. Like, I feel like they made him bigger in the next time we see him, but you can't really, it's like, you're kind of looking at it as like, he kind of seemed bigger in Kong Skull Island, even though he's like triple the size now.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, but yeah. So he's a tall boy. Then it goes to Washington, where we meet John Goodman's character. Is it Randa? Bill Randa and Corey Hawkins.
Yeah, Randa.
Plays Brooks, who, fun fact, we will see again in the next film, even though a lot of people didn't know the character, at least, not the actor, of course. Which I didn't know until I saw Godzilla King of the Monsters for the second time. I didn't realize that was that, but we'll talk about that next week. But we meet Randa and Brooks, who are they work for Monarch, which we found out who they were. They're an organization that pretty much studies these giant creatures, and pretty much they're a very underground government agency that not a lot of people know about. And they John Goodman and Brooks have been doing a lot of studies about, well, I know that Brooks has been doing a lot of studies on Hollow Earth. This is where we first find out about Hollow Earth, about how under the earth there is another world, pretty much, and there's these tunnels that a lot of these creatures travel, how they can travel between places so fast. And they need to go talk to a senator, right?
Yes.
To get like funding to go to this island that they found, that is has never had people go to, pretty much.
Yeah.
And pretty much the government's like, yeah, you guys are crazy. You guys are lunatics. Like,
Yeah.
I need, like, no way. And then he, of course, persuades them. And then at the end, after literally having to, like, pull on, like, the smallest thread to get him to go, then he's like, hey, can I get some military escort? It's like,
yeah. One more
What?
favor.
Yeah,
One more favor.
I mean, I feel like the thing that really persuaded him was, like, I don't think it was working at first until he brought up that in a couple of days, I think the Russians were going to get that same image that they got of the island.
Yeah.
And he was like, we need to find out what's on this island before they get this image and they do the same thing. And he was like, you know what you said is,
right.
I don't want to admit this, but it makes sense.
Got to beat the Ruskies.
Yep. And so after that, we turn to, now we're in Vietnam, where we meet all of the many characters of this movie. This is one gripe I have with this movie, is there's so many characters that we all have to try to.
Good.
Yeah, but there's some where you're like, I just feel like you got. I mean, I'm okay with having a handful of characters because you can try to like attach yourself and care more about them. I feel like there's just way too many, where you could have had maybe like a few soldiers that survived, not 10. Plus, you have John Goodman's character, Randa. You have Brooks.
You have my least favorite character.
You have the scientists, and yes, we will talk very much about.
I've never hated someone I like so much in my life.
So we meet Samuel L. Jackson's character, who is probably my least favorite character that Samuel L. Jackson has ever portrayed.
Wow.
Really?
I don't like I don't know. I feel like he's just like, let's be realistic here. I understand this guy has been at war for a long time and, you know, he's messed up. He literally, war is all he knows. But the fact that when they get to the island and Kong, you know, does his thing and he's literally like, he's seeking vengeance on a 104-foot tall gorilla. Like, I understand, like, people can lose their minds, but like, I think there's no chance. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of his character in this movie. I don't hate it. But I think his intentions, like, after everything happens, is kind of ridiculous. But these movies are all kind of ridiculous in their own ways. But yeah, we meet his character Packard, and we meet Jack Chapman, who is pretty much just wants to get home to his family. Yeah. And then we meet all the other soldiers, which there's just so many.
Yeah, let's go down the list of 38.
Yeah.
There's only like what of the soldiers? There's only what?
There's Mills, Cole, Slivko, and Relays. And then there's the.
There's only like there's only a handful of them.
It just I don't know.
Well, there were so many until they start crashing and like half of them died.
But when you watch the movie, you can kind of tell by just how they interact which ones are going to be the significant ones for the rest of the film.
Right.
There's only like what, 5 of them maybe.
I want to just point out, I am being super picky about this. I love this movie. I just want to remind everybody this. I love this movie. I don't hate these characters. There's a lot of them though, and I'm trying to like care about them each in their own way. But there's some times where like a character would die, and I'd be like, okay, I was actually quite okay with this.
Like all those soldiers, they definitely blend together. Like I feel like they did a good job picking people that personalities kind of like.
Yeah. I think the two
blend.
Yeah. The two characters definitely that I was not a huge fan of are the two scientists that survive.
Yeah.
What was his name? Landsat Steve and Victor Nye. We'll just call him Victor. And yeah, those guys I think brought that whole core group down, because like the soldiers do blend, and they all have a good rapport with each other, and I thought they all had a good chemistry. But yeah,
and then there's those two.
What's that?
And then there's those two scientists. You're like, why are they here?
Yeah.
I mean, They were just,
yeah.
I don't even know how to explain them. I think you don't even have to. I think if you watch the movie, you understand.
They're death fodder. That's all they were.
Yep. And so they're very excited. You know, the war is, the war's over. And they are excited because they get to go home to their family. And man, Samuel L. Jackson is not about this, man. He's hoping something happens. Packard is ready for more, and he gets a phone call saying, "Hey, we got a mission for you," and he, of course, is not even going to hesitate and accepts. I don't know if I jumped past the whole meeting of Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston's character, but this is where we're going to get to. So, John, Randa and Brooks need to find a tracker, right?
Yep.
And so they go to this bar, and man, we find Loki there. But he's clean. He's got a nice short haircut, and he's beating people up with pool cues. I was like, okay, I guess we had to have something to show this guy's a badass. And to be honest, if you walk into a room, you see Tom Hiddleston, automatically I know he's a badass. I don't need him to be beating people up with pool cues. But you know what? It happened, and we move on. So the funny thing is the Randa didn't get a lot of money for this. He got enough money to get to the island, but somehow can afford whatever this guy's asking.
I mean, Conrad was like a special service person for the British or something.
Yeah. He was pretty much a professional. Like, that's what his job was, right? He was a professional tracker for the British government. And then we meet Brie Larson's character, Weaver, who is a photographer, a war photographer, pretty much a war photographer who is trying to make the Americans look bad. Was that her whole thing?
Yeah, that was the big thing at the time. You know, the whole anti-Vietnam War thing, and that was her shtick.
Right.
One of my favorite lines in that movie was when she gets to the boat and he's like, "Oh, Mason's a woman." And she's like, "The last time I checked."
This is that part there. I mean, I understand. So this is the 70s, early 70s. This is right after the Vietnam War. So, a lot of these movies that are period pieces, sort of, this has got a very, it's a foggy period piece because it's not based in reality, but, women having these type of jobs was kind of like a shock to most people. So the line, like, I just, that one, when he says that line, I automatically was like, I'm going to hate this character the entire movie. This is a character who's going to, if he perishes, I'm not even going to care. Like, I'm not even going to react. So they get hired for their jobs. She gets a phone call and she goes to the boat, to join the mission. And is this the part where they just go on the boat? Like, when they get there, do they just go on, or was there like meetings between people beforehand?
Yeah, they talk a little bit about what the plan is when they get there. They have the whole meeting where they got one half of the room is the Landsat, the other one's the military, and then introduce everybody what the plan is on the island by using the seismic charges and stuff.
And as Slifko is like, "Hey guys, we're scientists now," which I love it. And then the guy can't stand is just like, "You guys aren't scientists." And I'm like, did you have to say it? You're an adult. That's like a childish, idiotic thing to say. Like, who cares, dude? This dude has just been fighting in a really ridiculous war, and he's just excited. Okay, leave him alone. God, this guy. I don't even remember. Does he even die? I don't even remember. I know the other one does, but Jesus, this freaking dude.
A lot of them do.
Yeah, a lot of people. We meet John Ortiz's character, Victor. He's the one who does the talks about everything they're going to be using. They're going to be using the seismic charge. Brooks talking about that too, about kind of the Hollow Earth theory ish in a way. And Chapman talks about the military things that they're going to do once they get to the island. And is this where do they find out about the storm in this presentation too? About how there's a storm around the island Okay.
Yeah, they discuss it.
Yeah. So so there's a storm around the island, and they got to find some way to get in there, and that's what they got the military escort for. And this is crazy.
They
yeah.
There's a scene where Conrad and Brie Larson's character Mason, they meet up. He's like down in where they're storing the seismic charges.
Yeah, she's looking
and
at him.
She asks him, like, do you think this is why they're really going there? Right. I forget exactly what he says, but he's pretty much like, no, I don't think that.
Yeah. And so now they are on the boat and they are heading towards the edge of the storm, and we get a cool, I mean, I guess some people say cool, some people will be like, this is kind of weird, is the montage of like everything, like everybody having a good time on the boat and her taking pictures of everybody and having a good time. And I guess it's one of those things you kind of just add, it's just there to kind of give you some time frame between like how long it's taking them to get to the island. And they get to the edge of the storm, and Victor's like, hell no, this is gonna be bad. Like we're aborting. And John Goodman was like, no, we're not. We got all the way here, and if I go home and do nothing, it's not gonna be good. They're never gonna give me money again. He doesn't say that, but that's pretty much the point. That's the whole gist of it. And so and then Samuel Jackson was like, I got you guys. We're doing this. I'm here too. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do whatever the hell we got to do. And everybody starts prepping, gets on the choppers, and the best line, even though I don't like his character much in this movie, he says a line that really hits me straight to the heart.
The Pennsylvania
as they start to get ready to go, he says, all right, everybody, hold on to your butts. And I was like, yes, I was so excited. If no one knows that reference, it is a line he says in Jurassic Park. And oh God.
I mean,
a lot of people are like, it's so stupid that you really use a line from another movie. No, it's not. It's cool. No. It's been like 25 years. Yeah. Let's relax. All right.
When he brings up, it hits you close to home with your football team too. If you think about the line he says when he's on the helicopter about how it's the Pennsylvania steel and that it's not going to melt.
Right. Pittsburgh. Yeah. But yeah, and we got somebody in the chat right now who is a huge fan of this movie. So he's throwing me facts in the chat. And yeah, so the next thing he does is as they're flying through this crazy ass storm, everyone is scared out of their minds. He is literally calm as hell, talking about the story of Icarus, about a boy who gets wings made from his father, made out of wax tails, not to fly too close to the sun. And he's like, hell no, I'm going high up. And then they melt, and then he crashes to the ground and dies. It's a really cool scene. I love that he's just so calm telling the story as everybody is like, we're going to die. Like, we're going to die. And then they clear the storm, and it's just this beautiful scenery of the island. So the majority of this film was filmed in Kauai, which is where where a lot of the Jurassic Park films were filmed. Most recently, the first Jurassic World. I don't think Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was. God damn, that movie sucks. So we see this.
That's a bold claim. Carry on.
Well, Fallen Kingdom? Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. Sign me up on that one too.
So we get to the island. You see this beautiful scenery. Everyone is like, oh my God. And they start dropping the seismic charges, which are just bombs. Like, these things are just literally, they're just like, they are just dropping bombs on this island they've never been to. You get the cool scene where it's like the gunner is standing on the side of the chopper with his aviator glasses on, and it shows like the reflection, like him really like into it as like everything is blowing up around him. And then, oh, this scene is so good. You just see a tree. You see that the pilot going, what's that? As a giant tree flies through the air and just slams through the windshield. And then you get a lot of slow-mo in this movie, but I think it fit it wasn't like unnecessary. Like you see some movies and you're like, why did they have to go slow-mo?
There's only one part that we'll get to later that is unnecessary.
Yes.
Slow-mo.
Yeah. But so we get that cool like shot where the tree goes through the chopper and then it's like slow motion. And then everyone is like, oh my God, what's going on? And then they see in the distance with a cool silhouette is Kong standing there ready to go. And then for the next, oh man, this seems like it was so long and it was so good. It just kept on going and I was enjoying every minute of it, of Kong just wrecking house. He's literally destroying all these choppers. We get a really cool scene where he grabs one of them, and I believe the back of the chopper, the blade slices him in the hand.
Yeah.
Which I love that they always go back to it. Like it's not like it happens and then you don't see anything with it again. It was just kind of a part of that scene that was like, oh shit. It literally comes up again of him, cleaning the wound, and you're like, that's so cool. I'm glad that people pay attention and continue. Oh man, this scene is just so good. So yeah, so Kong destroys all the choppers, and everybody's on the ground, and that's where everybody's calling each other, seeing who's alive and all that, and Samuel L. Jackson is just staring at Kong as fire is billowing around him. He is set for revenge on Kong for killing his men. And I liked his character up until this part, and then after that it just kind of gets crazy. But like I've said many times, I love this movie, so I don't care. Anything you guys want to add? I feel like I've talked a lot.
I can add. I can give you a break if you need to for a minute.
Sure, go for it.
I can talk about Kong.
Go for it.
I can talk about the fact that why are they still trying to attack Kong, knowing that he's taken out over half of their people? I'd be like, nope.
Full-hearted determination.
Yep.
I would have noped out of there real quickly.
I was gonna say this version of Kong. Why I like this version. I mentioned it last podcast, but I wanted to talk about this because the version of Kong this is one of my favorites because it's based on the old Toho Kong from the Japanese King Kong versus Godzilla, and then King Kong King Kong Raids Again. God, wow, I'm thinking of Godzilla Raids Again. God, what the heck is? I just blanked the name of that movie. Anyway, I'll remember it. The second Kong movie from 1967, made by Toho. The reason I like it is because this is a bipedal Kong and not the normal slouched over gorilla style one that you normally see on screen. And that's why I like this one more because it's based on the old Japanese Toho version. Right. But if you really look at it, the Kong in this movie, people will say, you'll hear in the comments about monkey or gorilla. He's obviously not a monkey, but he's not really a gorilla either. He's actually based more on ancestral bipedal primates like Homo erectus, Gigantopithecus. So while they do slouch over occasionally and they can run in like a quadrupedal manner, naturally they stand up more often than slouch.
Yeah, that's what I noticed about. I mean, that I like about Kong in this film is that he's very human-like. Like he doesn't do a lot of ape-related things other than like there's scenes where he's like swinging from the hills, like he would grab onto the mountains and then. But like there's like in the scene with the helicopters, he's like legit looks like a sprinter, like he's huffing it. And I, we'll talk about it in a couple weeks in more detail, but like was there a reason they changed him to more of a gorilla-like? Like he was more gorilla-like in Godzilla versus Kong, I feel.
I noticed when he moved, sometimes he did do the whole slouching thing. And I don't know if it was a particular reason why they did that. I really don't.
He's older?
I don't know. Maybe they wanted to try to, whoever the director was or whoever was ahead of the development of that project. It's like, we'll make him do these things because it seems that these film franchises tends to forget what happens sometimes in previous iterations of their movies, like the Monsterverse, something they'll blatantly state, they'll contradict in the next films. Anyway, I think that, and it was, yes, Angela mentioned it, and some in the chat. I don't know why I blanked the name. It's King Kong Escapes. That's the movie I'm thinking. I forgot the title.
Umbreon coming in clutch. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Like, I knew it was there, so it tipped my tongue. I just couldn't remember it. But anyway, I don't know why, because I like this version. I like him more brown than black. You know, just like he was essentially the Toho Kong, and I just thought that was great.
Compared to like what you see in the original King Kong, or I'm going to reference more of the Peter Jackson one since it's more recent and it's kind of you see like Peter Jackson's Kong is just a massive gorilla. Like he looks exactly like a silverback gorilla. He does like most of his actions are all gorilla like, the way he, you know, would run around and beat his chest, which this one does as well. I mean, he still has he still beats his chest and roars, but he's more just like a human who can't speak, who's pretty much just like, get the hell off my freaking, like he's Clint Eastwood of Skull Island. All right, he's get off my lawn. What are you doing, bro?
Definitely the scenes where like they pan in on his eyes. Like when I see those scenes, it's almost like I'm looking at like it's a human in there looking to,
right.
Like he knows
smart.
what you're doing. He knows, like the way they portray him is like he knows what you're doing. He knows, like he's definitely not dumb. Right. And I like that they did that, because the good old Jack Black one, which was good, but it's definitely like it was a big oversized gorilla, just a very angry gorilla.
Yeah, I love this. This Kong is definitely my favorite. I just love everything that, he's territorial, but like, it could be just like I said, it could be just like a guy who's like, somebody's in there in his backyard and he's got to get rid of him. He's the protector of this island. He's got to. He's like, what the hell? They did. Yeah,
I also feel like,
but he also is like, he doesn't know what these things are. So like the scene where he grabs the helicopter and the blade cuts him, he's like, what the hell? Like he's not used to something like that.
The thing is like I feel like there was no, like his intentions were to never kill any of those people at all. He just didn't want them to wake up the skull crawlers, and that was I think the bombs going off was him trying to tell these humans to shut up because you're going to wake them up, and then.
Yeah, I think it's a mix. I think it would be a mix of the two. He's protecting his home, but he's also like, "What the hell are you doing?" Because of course, like the humans don't know about these, about the.
Well, the reason I say that is because there's already humans on the island that he's, essentially protected, so he knows what a human is. It's not like it was his first time ever meeting a human. But
he also hasn't seen one fly in this weird contraption.
Well, no, but
So yeah, so everybody's on the ground, I believe. Brooks. I'm trying to think of the groups. Most of the military guys, except for Slivko, are with Samuel L. Jackson, right? And Slivko is with Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, and is John Goodman there too? I'm trying to think of the groups.
Yeah. John Goodman with Samuel L. Jackson's character and all them.
Oh, right. He's with him too. So yeah, and then Chapman is all by himself.
Poor Chapman.
Which the whole start of Packard's mission is we gotta go get Chapman. Where Weaver and Conrad are like, we gotta get to the other side of the island and alert someone to come get us. And then so the coolest scene is, I love I'm trying to think of his name, Cole, played by Shea Wiggum, who is an amazing actor. But he is the one who literally, he's like, they crash and then he's just sitting at the wreckage eating a can of beans. And, and Mills is like, what are you doing? I love Cole. I just love the camaraderie that those two characters have. And then we get to sit down where Samuel L. Jackson's like, what the hell are we doing here? Sits down with Randa and is like, what is going on? And then Randa breaks it down. And then Randa pretty much tells him everything, that he was on a ship that was destroyed by a creature who they pretty much said was a torpedo. It was blown up by a torpedo, but it wasn't. And I'm guessing that they were hinting, like, was it Godzilla who ultimately destroys the ship?
I'm assuming so. That's what I'm thinking their point.
Yeah. So he tells him everything about what Monarch does and all that, and talking about kind of the whole theory that they figured out. And then Samuel Jackson, just all in his head, he is literally thinking about, how am I going to destroy Kong? Like, he killed my brothers. I got to take revenge. But he's telling everybody, we got to go get Chapman, which is a very important thing. Which we see Chapman, he is cleaning himself off after he leaves the little area that he crashed in. He's washing himself up, and that's when Kong comes around the corner, and we get to kind of see Kong do some non-fighting. Well, for a little bit, at least for a few seconds, he's washing his hand wound. He's washing, because he was shot as well, so he's washing himself off, which is really cool. I love that the inclusion of the scene. Like, it was kind of like, I feel like they probably could have just cut it out and we would have been okay with it, but I'm glad that they kept it in, of just kind of like, hey, this is Kong, this is what Kong does every day. This is his like routine type deal. He's still got to take care of himself.
It kind of gives you more of a.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It just kind of gives you more of a better picture of how big he actually is, because when he picks up the water, they pan in under his hand, and it's like a waterfall that's created from the amount of water he can hold in his palm.
Yeah, that he's not just there to destroy. He actually he's like a living creature, does his own thing. He's just
and then he gets aggressive, and Conrad the whole time thinks that, or not Conrad, I'm sorry. Chapman, my mistake. Chapman thinks that he sees him. So he's terrified, but it's actually Kong reaches into the water and grabs this gigantic squid or octopus, whatever it was, has a wrestling match with it.
The thing is with that scene is I feel like I feel like he knows he's there. He just doesn't care. Like, it's one of those things.
Right.
Like, he kind of ignores the tribe people and that are already living there. So he just, it's like every day. So
I think he was cleaning himself off. It's like, I'm hungry. And he looked down and was like, oh, all right, cool. Thanks for being here. And he has some sushi. I love it. It's nasty, but it's great. I love it. I love this whole thing. Every scene with Kong is just fantastic, in my opinion. I don't think there's one scene that Kong's in where you're like, I don't think that they needed this scene. It's the same thing with Godzilla. Like, if every scene with Godzilla in the last film was great. I loved it.
There just wasn't enough.
Yeah. I think the problem with these films is if they had a better story, if there was like a stronger story, I think not having Godzilla in the film as much is a good thing, or Kong. But like, I feel the story in this is stronger than in Godzilla. But still, like, just give us a little bit more. I'm not saying we need him the entire film, because then it's just kind of too much. Where you're just kind of like, all right, it's just a monster movie. No really context of what's happening. He's just there. Where you have to have some sort of human story behind it.
The difference too between Godzilla and Kong is if you really break it down, is that Kong he's pretty much on an island, so there's not much to go. Where Godzilla has the entire ocean. So if you want to go from story to story, it's a lot. Seeing Godzilla is going to be a lot more rare than seeing Kong, because if you go to this island, you're eventually going to see him. He's stuck on this island, where Godzilla has the entire ocean, which we know 3% of the entire ocean, whatever it is, something crazy. It's just a lot more rare.
See, I think so. Back to what I was talking about with the trying to balance out a human story and having trying to figure out what's too much of Kong or Godzilla or whatever creature we're talking about. I think especially since they can't talk, I think it's harder to have them be in the film more, because there's but for instance, an example being Transformers, the Transformers franchise. If you had less humans, those movies I think would have been better. If you try to flesh out the Transformers stories, these characters can talk to each other, where Godzilla can't talk. They roar, but they can't talk to each other. Where we can't understand what the hell they're saying.
That's probably the nicest roar I've ever seen in my life. Ever heard? Seen?
What do you guys? Do you guys agree, or what are your thoughts on that? The balancing of a movie with, for instance, a creature like Godzilla who can't talk. Do you want him more in the film? Do you care less about the story and just want more of him? Or
being as I've seen, what are we up to? 37 Godzilla movies. I've seen them all. There's a balance that has to be struck with that, and it depends on how you're depicting the creature in the film, be it Godzilla or otherwise.
right.
Because obviously he's been depicted many different ways.
Right.
I think, yeah, he's mentioned it. The Godzilla has spoken before on a movie with text
that's
bubbles.
what we were
It's
talking
happened.
about.
But anyway, it's not relevant to the MonsterVerse. I like him being in there, but there is a possibility of having too much Godzilla. And I have seen Godzilla movies where like they just have these fights that just drag and drag and drag, and they're not entertaining.
Yep.
And I think if you're going to do that in a movie like this, keep the runtime short. And they did in this one, but keep the runtime short.
Agreed.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you do too much, you make it too long. It's just dragging it out, like adding unnecessary stuff to it. But yeah, keep the runtime low. I couldn't agree more. Yeah,
thankfully, Peter Jackson didn't do any of these movies, but we'd all be boned.
We'd still be watching it,
bro. We can review the King Kong, that King Kong movie. No.
It's a good movie though. I was meant The Hobbit.
I love it. I love Peter Jackson's King Kong. Ronan, thank you so much for the 10 biddies. Appreciate you.
I don't know. Can we review those movies? Because I feel like we need like a 3-year span to just finish it. So
with Lord of the Rings, I don't want to do the
Hobbit. They're great. They're great movies.
I have zero interest in doing the Hobbit movies.
Do the old animated Hobbit. That's a good one. It's the whole thing in like
why not?
An hour and a half.
Perfect.
Sure. There's so many. We were literally talking today, like, hey, we should do this. Hey, we should do this. We got, oh my Lord, we got like the next year and a half planned out.
We're gonna be like 58, and we're still gonna be.
There's enough movies.
There is. There's so many.
The thing is like they keep coming out with more, but we keep going back to the like ones that have already happened
because we wanted to.
So we're never gonna.
Yeah, we got to make sure we're talking about if we're talking about a franchise, we got to talk about every movie in the franchise. Like when it comes to like for instance, this is the MonsterVerse, so it's 4 films. I'm not like if I was like, let's do every Godzilla movie, we got a show for the next few years.
Yep. You do. You're pretty almost over a year.
Yeah, exactly. So
how many did you say? 37?
37, yeah.
Whew.
Holy crap.
That's a lot.
What about movies? He's right, because if you ever did the Jaws franchise, you still have to do Jaws: The Revenge.
Oh, 100%. If I do, okay, listen, 100% chat. Everybody listening, Jaws will be done on this podcast, and we'll be talking about Jaws 2, Jaws 3D, and Jaws: The Revenge. And boy, oh boy, I cannot wait. So it's not even Jaws: The Revenge I'm excited for. I'm excited to rewatch Jaws 3D, one of possibly the worst films ever made. Like people give a lot of shit to Jaws: The Revenge, which is a terrible movie in itself, but Jaws 3D, which is what it's called, chat, because it was a 3D movie from 1983. It's garbage. It's hot garbage.
Just remember to reach in and pull the pin out of the grenade.
Oh my god! I can't wait though. I cannot wait to tear those movies apart. It's going to be fantastic.
How drunk do I have to be to get through this film? Because I don't know if I can.
We might have to be drunk to watch it plus do this podcast.
What I'm saying is,
you don't have to work early the next day.
Oh, even if I have to, you gotta have some sort of.
You ain't catching me doing this sober because I'll be falling asleep in about 3 minutes.
Oh my god!
How was the movie? It's great.
Right, yeah, well, that's an insight into the future of this podcast. But we are going to continue talking about Kong Skull Island right now. So what did we just talk about? Oh, we talked about the scene where Kong fights with the squid or octopus. Yep. You can't really tell what it is. Is it an octopus?
It's supposed to be an octopus.
Okay, I figured more octopus like. And yeah, he eats it, which is delicious. Sushi good.
Octopus spaghetti.
Can you? I'm trying to think. What happens right after this? I literally
isn't that where they stump? Isn't that where the group with
It's the one with Brie Larson. Don't they find the tribe?
Yeah, they find the tribe.
Yes, they find the Iwis, the Iwi tribe, which is the locals of Skull Island. They live behind this giant, fence gate, freaking. It's like Attack on Titan sort of wall that they built around their village. And they don't talk. And we then meet Marlowe, who we find out is the American soldier from the beginning of the movie, played by John C. Reilly. What a casting. He brightens this film up with all of his quirkiness. Like a lot of people, I don't know, some people probably didn't like that he was in this, but a lot of people need to remember John C. Reilly was a very serious actor and did a lot of serious roles before Step Brothers kind of put him as a comedic actor. Actually, today me and Nemesis just watched Gangs of New York, and he's in that. Like, he's a fantastic. Wasn't
he in What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Probably. He's been in a lot of films. He's a very good actor. But I love that it's a mix of like him being serious and him also being funny, because he's a guy who's been living on this island for the last 28 years of his life.
Yep.
And so he comes out, he introduces himself and tells everybody what's going on, and they walk into this really cool like room that has a bunch of stones that are painted, and when you see him at a certain angle, it shows a picture, and that's when he starts talking about Kong and how Kong is the protector pretty much of Skull Island. And they ask like what's with the fence, and is it to keep Kong out, and that's what he says, right? To keep Kong.
Yeah.
It's not to keep Kong out. It's to keep them. It's to not let them in, right?
And the other thing.
And then he says, and then we get a weird interaction where he calls them skull crawlers, and he's like, yeah, I just made that up. And they're like, yeah, that's cool. It's cool. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I'm cool.
Person that said it out loud.
Yeah.
No, I really made it.
That sounds stupid. But he talks about how Kong is the last of his kind, that his parents were killed by the skull crawlers, and that Kong is only a teenager pretty much. He is very young. Yep. He is still got a lot of growing to do, which it kind of shows the future of what he's going to become, especially when people heard about Godzilla fighting Kong, and they're like, how is he going to do that when Godzilla's like 300 and something feet? And
I know, right? People are like,
people are
so stupid. They're so stupid.
Yeah,
Nemesis, you were one of them. All right. God, I can't stand you.
I don't remember saying this at all.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I'm glad you're here, Umbreon. Thank you. So, yes, we skipped. I guess this scene was before the scene where they meet the Iwi tribe. The scene where the soldiers are walking through the bamboos. I don't know if that was before. Whatever. We're going to talk about it. The soldiers are walking through the bamboo. And the bamboo, like, is a really weird scene where, like, one of them moves and, like, impales one of the soldiers through his mouth. I'm like, what the?
Pretty dope.
Yeah, and they look up, and there's these giant spiders, and they start fighting them, all that. And then there's these weird, like, sticky things that attach to Mills, starts dragging them up, and you see, like, these weird crab things on their face. And I was like, what the hell? If you're an arachnophobe, this is terrifying. Seriously. But they start chopping at its legs like a damn, like they're chopping through the bamboo, but they're chopping down the legs.
Yeah, was it Cole that figured it out?
Yeah.
Cole's like, or whatever. He's like, cut him off at the legs. It's a good scene.
So crazy. And then, of course, the thing is pretty much dead, and Samuel L. Jackson's got to do the dramatic walk up and shoot a couple rounds into the thing to finish it off.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just surprised he didn't say the something with motherfucker.
We did talk about the Chapman and Kong scene. So, yeah. But yeah, that scene was crazy. But yeah, and then we get to the scene with them meeting the Iwis and meeting Marlowe, and trying to think what's next. Trying to remember the order of everything.
Oh well, I think that's when I could be wrong, because I just watched it again.
I literally watched it yesterday.
Isn't that when
so good?
He shows him that he has that boat, but he can't get it to work.
Right. Oh, he talks about his buddy there, or the guy that he fights in the beginning of the movie.
Oh yeah, he grabs the sword.
that he died from, and he dies from the skull crawler. Correct? That was what he was talking about. A skull crawler killed him.
Yeah.
That was in Kong.
Now, does he say how long he was on the island for? Like, was this immediate? Like, did they actually become friends? Like, I don't think they make it clear.
No, they mentioned that they became friends because when he says right before they leave, they get ready to go on the boat, and he says they promised they wouldn't leave each other behind, him and Gunpei.
Right.
So you could tell they had some bond there, like for a while. It doesn't specify when he died, but they were probably there for a while.
Yeah. So yeah, and then he shows him the boat that is made out of both of their planes.
Yeah, like a crash bomber or something.
Yeah,
that they
really,
salvage parts or something like that. Yeah.
It's really cool, and pretty much they're
float.
And pretty much Slivko is giving him a bunch of shit about like, how are we we're really gonna like do this? Like, we're gonna float on this thing. It was, yeah. Slivko is funny. I liked his character. He was a good, like, we had John C. Reilly's comedic chops, his comedic prowess in this film. I liked it, trying to be serious, but also like, this guy is just crazy because he's been here for so long, living with people who don't speak to each other. And Slivko, I liked him too. I think, being able to portray like that really young, I'm guessing like he's portraying like a 19-year-old kid.
I like their conversation about baseball.
Yes, yeah. He's talking about the Cubs, how he's a Cubs fan, and he's like, who are you? Are you a Tiger fan? He's like, and then Slivko's like, who do you think would win between a tiger and a cub? And he's like, a tiger, of course. A cub is a baby bear. I was like, yes, so good. Oh my God, yeah. And then he mentions, of course, that he's been there for 28 years. He's been there since 1942, I believe it was.
Yeah, he gives an exact. It's like 28 years, X amount of months, weeks. Like, he's got down to the T how long he's been there.
Yep.
I feel like that makes it more depressing.
Yes.
Right.
Well, a little reference if I could throw in here. His jacket, Marlowe's jacket, says, what is it? Good for your health, bad for your education, or whatever. It's a reference to Akira. It's an Akira reference because that's almost exactly an old anime from the 80s. That's what the jacket said. And it's also supposed to be a reference to another program. Was it Bill C. Riley? Is that his name? I can't remember his name.
John C. Riley.
John C. Riley. That's what I was going to mix up. Yeah, John C. Riley. And then it was another show he was a part of that he says something like "good for your health" or something, or "it's good for you." Like, it was supposed to be a reference to both of those. So, just throwing that out there. Random trivia.
I love it.
That's new to me, so that's cool. I didn't know that.
All right, I'm trying to find. I knew there was some cool trivia on this. Oh, there is a trivia that I have for a scene that happens later in the film.
Oh, I got one more. Well, probably not one more, but I got one big one I can think of later.
Okay. Okay, so I'm trying to think. So is this when they say goodbye and they go and they sail off?
I think this is where it was mentioned. I think they cut to Chapman and the stick bug.
Yes, and he shoots at it, and then it was like a, what the hell you shoot at me for? And then, of course, he turns and he gets eaten by a skull. Yeah, and before Marlowe's talking about the skull crawlers, and he's talking about how Kong is a protector, of course, and that he has to protect them from the skull crawlers. And what he's fighting right now is they're babies, pretty much. They're young skull crawlers. You don't want to wake the big one because he doesn't even know if Kong could be able to handle them, pretty much, because that one killed his parents, and that's why he's the only one left of his species. And then while he's talking about this, Kong is fighting. Or Kong walks up on one of those like giant water buffaloes that we see a couple times in this movie, and he it's one of the skull crawlers, and he's fighting two of them at once while Marlowe's talking about the whole skull crawler thing, and I thought that was really cool. And before they go on the boat, I know that like they're talking with Marlowe, like the whole group, and then Weaver walks away because she hears something, and she walks outside of the fence, and she sees one of the buffaloes has a helicopter on top of it, and for some reason she thinks she's Superman. And she gets under the helicopter, try to pick it up.
She was getting ready for her Captain Marvel role.
Right. Yeah, she had to get some workout in.
Preparation.
But yeah, she's like, attempting to move it to help it out, and Kong comes out, and the helicopter lifts up and it's Kong and he's holding it.
The only thing that annoys me about that scene is how do you not know 104-foot gorillas walking up to you? You're trying to,
Yeah.
She was so concentrated on putting all her strength behind trying to lift the
She's
tail
trying
end
to
of
lift
that
that so hard
helicopter.
her hearing just goes.
He's light on his feet, man.
Yeah, he's been on this
He's
island for a very
tiptoeing,
long time.
He's just
tiptoeing
tiptoeing.
tulips.
Yep.
Listen, there's a lot of crazy things that change or happen in these films that you're gonna watch certain things coming up in the future and you're going, what, he can do that? So yeah, I'm not so surprised on that, but he picks up the helicopter, he holds it in his hand, he's looking down at her, and this is when you get the feeling, this is when I feel a lot of people watch this scene, and this is when you know that Kong is not just here to destroy things. Like we were talking about before, he's there to protect the island. He doesn't see her as a threat, which kind of is a cool way of it's kind of an homage to the original King Kong, and of course the most of the King Kongs where they have the female, he grows an attachment to a female character, which you don't really get that in this scene per take, because it's more of like he just recognizes she's not a threat, and so he just walks away. He sees that she's trying to help, and he's
it goes back to that he knows she just came out of this village that he's essentially protected. So I feel like he's looking at her as one of the villagers, which he's been protecting for I don't know how many years. So obviously he's not like, he already knows she's not a threat. So he's
it's cool.
She doesn't know that, but
it's a cool
scene. I would definitely poop myself if that happened.
A little
bit. Every bowel in my body would let loose.
Very true. Very true. So this is, and then it cuts. Is this where it cuts to the soldiers walking through the swamp, and then they run into the creepy birds?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he shoots the one, and
and just a bunch of them come out and just fly overhead, and damn, these things are creepy as hell. They look like a really messed up looking pterodactyl. Like, they're just terrifying. These things are crazy, and they bleed different colors.
They have like saw noses.
Yeah, they're creepy.
It was a really cool scene, especially when you just see like the one, and then he shoots it, thinking it's just one, and then a flock of them just come out of nowhere and just fly overhead. I was waiting for them to come out and then like attack them, but they just end up flying overhead, which I was like, okay, I like that.
Pre-beta Rodan. I guess.
He put the lol at the end, so just to know he was kidding.
I know. I'm just
no fights in the chat here.
No, I'm just kidding. It's fine. It's all good.
No, it's all good. So yeah, and then this is where Marlowe says farewell to the tribe, right? And they fix the boat, of course. They get it all ready to go, and then he says his goodbyes, and hey, if you're ever in Chicago, look me up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look me up.
Oh man, which is it's knowing what the future is of these films. It's sad because the last time you actually see knowing what comes of this tribe, it's kind of touching now when it watching it again, knowing what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're sailing they're going down this river, heading towards their evacuation site or evac site. And they're having a good conversation about, they're just having a conversation, like they're listening to music, and Marlowe's not into it. He's like, what is this? Because it's like, the typical Vietnam War soundtrack, from every Vietnam War movie. This is the music I swear there is, if any director is like, hey, we want to make a movie set in Vietnam War times, they're like, all right, well, you have to put these songs in there. It's not, you can't do it. If you don't put this music in there, you can't make this film. I feel like that is what studios do. Because I swear every song that's in this movie, well, most of the songs that are in this movie, CCR, every single Vietnam War movie, every single one.
Almost,
it's like CCR signed a contract with somebody that said, hey, if you make a Vietnam War movie, our music has to be in it. I don't even know how many people are still alive from CCR, but good for them.
say.
They're still making a shit ton of money.
Yeah, there you go. Somebody is.
Yeah. Which CCR is great. Just put that point there too. Oh man. I'm trying to like pinpoint like exactly what happens after these things, because a lot of these scenes blend together.
They get the one of the scenes coming up is where he sees Kong's bloody handprint on the wall, and he's like, we made him bleed or whatever. Yep. Samuel L. Jackson's character.
Yeah, and then so this is kind of like where he's starting to make it known that they're not just going to find Chapman, that they plan to find Chapman, and then they're going to try to kill Kong. And everybody in his group is like they're following orders, of course, because he's the alpha there. He's got the the authority. So none of them want to do this. None of them are for this. They are like even Cole, who is kind of the whack job of the group. Like he is just. I mean, clearly this guy doesn't have a lot of. It kind of shows that he doesn't have a lot of emotions. Like he kind of bundles. Like he kind of holds it all in. And even he, like, they show his face, like when Samuel Jackson starts talking about it, and then they kind of pan over to all the soldiers, and he's also like, I don't want to do this. But this is where you see his character, Samuel Jackson's character, just kind of spiral out of control.
Isn't this where I can't remember which soldier, but one of the soldiers tells the story to John Goodman, because he's like, that thing's makes a remark about how that thing's not going to do any damage, and he's like, well, yeah, but I got this gun from like a farmer or something.
Oh,
that was Cole. That was Cole.
Yeah, Cole tells the story about why he uses an AK-47.
Yeah, and he also meant
not the M16.
Yeah.
It's actually one of my favorite bits for his character, actually, in that movie, because he mentions, he's like, where he asked Randa why I use an AK over an M16, and he said, well, I got it from a farmer in I got it from a farmer in wherever, Vietnam, wherever. And then he said, before we showed up, this farmer didn't even know what a gun was. And he said, what I'm saying is, sometimes you don't know they're your enemy. What was it? Sometimes you don't know you have an enemy until you go looking for him. Which is a great little And he's like, well, what do you do when he shows up on your doorstep? And he's like, well, I still got his gun.
Yep. And the boat radios to Samuel Jackson's character.
Yeah.
Why can't I remember it? Packard. Sorry, Packard. He radios to him, and then they shoot a flare, and then that's when they all meet up.
He gets they get the call. We found it, and then the birds, the flying reptiles.
Like, we're going home.
Could have been the other guy, but yes, one of the scientists gets lifted up gets taken out by one of those creepy birds from before, and they tear him to shreds. Yeah. And everybody just looks up to the sky with kind of like, oh no, and then they have to go back to kind of just getting the hell out of there. Victor, that's what I call him, because that's his name. But so then they meet up and they talk about like, hey, who survived, or who died, all that, and then Marlowe comes in and they're like, who the hell is this? And they all have their meeting thing, and then Samuel Jackson pretty much puts it out there. Packard puts it out there like, hey, this is my plan. We're gonna go find Packard, and then I'm taking this thing down. And Marlowe's like, what? You can't do that. Like, you don't understand what he is. Like, if you kill him, it's gonna destroy this entire island. Like, it's gonna be bad. And Packard's like, I'm crazy, bro. I don't care what you're saying right now. Everything you just said, I didn't hear it, and I'm doing this.
Yeah, and then
he takes out and Marlowe pulls the katana, and man, Samuel Jackson just literally whoops his ass in about 5 seconds. And I was like, what, Marlowe, what are you doing, bro? Like, you just got taken down like super quick. And then so that is what's going on. So
well, didn't we miss a part where they have like a pre-meeting like when they first meet and they're talking about how they want to go east east.
Well, east is best, west is
and then
West
they
worst.
The west was where the skull crawlers are.
It's okay.
And then Marlo comes up with this remark like, "Yeah, don't listen to the guy that's been here for 20-something years."
Yes.
And but they don't fight at that point. Is when they get into and then they find Chapman's things. That's when it turns sour. His dog tags,
because they said, well, because Tom Hiddleston's character says he'll just go with him to help find Chapman, and then they were going to go do their own thing.
Right. So they come across this graveyard. This is literally where Kong's parents died, because you can see their skeletons, which if you look at it, they don't look very big. They don't look much bigger than what Kong is. I mean, I guess for basically based on the angle of the shot that they had of the graveyard, because they're both kind of laying down together. And I'm like, man, with how big we know he becomes, his parents weren't very big. Or just, I don't know. It's weird.
No, I agree. I thought the same thing. The same thing.
So they come across the graveyard of Kong's parents, which is surrounded by this like flammable gas.
I assume it's methane or something.
Yeah.
I have no
So,
idea.
when you go into a cloud of something you don't know, what's the first thing you think of doing?
Throw a lighter.
Yeah.
No.
No.
You light a cigarette.
Yeah.
You light a cigarette, and then the one guy goes, "Hey, man, put that out." And then what do? You throw it somewhere you don't know where it's going to land. And of course, it lands on this, where the fumes are coming out of the ground, and it explodes. And that's when the skull crawlers get alerted that they're there. And, chaos ensues where they all split apart. They're trying to hide from them. And one of the skull crawlers comes up next to Conrad and Weaver and throws up Chapman's dog tags, which is very convenient. But hey, we had to show Samuel L. Jackson's character that Chapman is dead. So here it is. Here's a convenient thing, but whatever. Yeah. So, but this is where one of the most ridiculous scenes of the entire movie happens. So I believe John Goodman's character, actually before all that happens, John Goodman's character is taking pictures, and he's the one who gives shit to Cole about the cigarette, but yet has a camera with a flash that has a flame.
Yeah, but it goes out after his first picture, doesn't it? Like,
but he's trying to get it to work because it's malfunctioning, and it he literally knows that one's behind him. He just literally doesn't even look at it. He just goes shit, and then the thing eats him, and then. But one of the coolest thing is that when it's eating him, the camera is still flashing inside the skull crawler, so that is like alerting it's helping everybody figure out where this thing is, which I thought was a really cool thing that they did.
I agree that was really cool. The only thing is like they have the scene where it throws up Chapman's head with they have this acidic whatever it is.
Well, I mean, it's stomach acid, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
I'm guessing it's just a stomach acid.
And I thought the whole camera scene was really, really cool, but it just didn't make sense to me that, they pretty much they have like this acidic crap in their body, but this camera is going off for a very long time.
Well, what also could be the acid could be concentrated in the stomach, so the flash is going off while it's going down the esophagus and hasn't reached the stomach yet, or been in the stomach long enough. But just a thought. I mean, either way.
I thought it was really cool.
It's a cool scene. Yeah. It's kind of gives the rest of the group help on where the hell this thing is, so they can attack it. But then we get the infamous scene where Marlo starts fighting the birds, because there's birds there too, right? Oh no, he slices at one of them and then throws the katana over to Tom Hiddleston, who then throws on a gas mask, and in slow motion with the green gas surrounding him just starts slowly slicing these. What was the birds? The birds were there too. That's what he was doing. He was slicing the birds in half.
What?
I'm sorry. This was dumb.
Well, initially the gas went off because what's the younger soldier's name? He got punted pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because he had that nerve gas or whatever toxic gas he had with those grenades.
But that scene when the gas, they're like, "Watch out for the gas," and then he like, ironically, has a mask lined up right in his path, gets a sword, and I don't know. It just like I felt like I was watching a different movie during that scene. Just slow mo through this gas,
these ones
slicing and dicing. I don't know. I think that was probably like if they were gonna leave any scene out of this movie, I would have picked that one.
Yeah, that could have been left out. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So yeah, that all happens, and they just
flamethrower.
Right, the flamethrower.
Like you said, what do in gas? You light a cigarette. You don't use a flamethrower.
Yeah, it's a lot of stupidity in
a
lot of this.
Very smart, you know.
Yeah,
a lot of
stupidity in this.
So.
What was I?
Yeah, but you notice during that whole flamethrower scene that nothing blows up.
Exactly. It's like you're in a cloud of gas.
Yeah, it was a weird.
You can have an entire flamethrower and everything's fine.
Yeah, but when you throw that lighter,
right,
and then the explosion, like.
I'm trying to think. Do they don't end up killing? They kill it?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brie Larson throws a lighter at the gas.
Right. Yes, and it blows it up. And then they get out of the gas, and they're separated now. And then they have to meet up again, and they meet up. They get back together, and Samuel Jackson's like, "We still gotta go find, Chapman." And Conrad's like, "Chapman's dead," and he shows him the dog tags, and he takes the dog tags, and he's like, "I don't care." Yeah. Pretty much, I am going to destroy this thing, and Weaver, Conrad, Marlowe, Brooks, and oh my god, we forgot to mention what was the character's name? San.
Oh yeah.
She was like did she work for the scientist group or she work with Monarch? I'm sad that this is the first time we mentioned her.
She was a scientist.
She was only in the movie because there was a Chinese production studio backing the production of it, and they needed a Chinese actress in it. That's actually why she was in it.
Oh.
She only had
she does little to nothing in the film.
She had like 11 lines or something like that. She had like very few lines.
She was more like I feel like they were trying to make it a love interest for Brooks. Like sort of, in a way. Like they were eventually going to make it that way. But yeah, so they all go their separate ways because they're like, Chapman, clearly we found Chapman, he's dead. We're going to the evac site. You guys do whatever the hell you want to do. And Packard's like, all right. And all the soldiers are like, okay, I guess we're going with you, even though we don't want to. And they they go away, and they're hiking through, Weaver and Conrad and the group are going through, and they hear Kong in the distance. And they're like, oh, Kong's in trouble. So they're like, all right, you guys stay here or keep going to the evac site, and we'll meet you guys back. And they both run off. And this was one of the trivia things I want to talk about. Marlowe, Brooks, and San are sitting there talking, and you hear birds chirping in the distance. And Marlowe goes, it sounds like a bird, but it's a fucking ant. And the funny thing is it was an improv by John C. Reilly. It wasn't in the script. It was something he just randomly said. Yeah. Like they told him what was going to happen, and he just came up with that line, and they're like, that's genius. I mean, with what we've seen on this island, it makes sense, right? Like it's something. I mean,
you had a giant bamboo spider, so I mean, right. a giant ant that sounds like a bird sounds good.
So it was. I mean, just imagine that's terrifying. But what a great line.
I actually thought that was a reference to the 1953 or 54 film Them, Giant Ant movie, and they kind of sound like birds. And they kind of whistle and chirp, and I thought that was a reference. I didn't realize that was ad-libbed. And he obviously could know about the film, but I just thought that's kind of neat. I didn't realize.
What's funny is that now that he says that is when he says that line, the second or the time I watched it most recently is when he says that. I think of that movie Matinee with John Goodman, because we grew up watching that. It was about a big giant ant, and
it was a weird ass movie. Not a lot of people know about it.
Weird ass movie.
What movie was it?
It's called Matinee with John Goodman. Yeah. He was a guy who owned a movie theater, and they were showing a movie about a giant ant, and then like the things that happened in the movie happen in real life and start like rampaging the town. It was a bizarre movie. I don't even know how. My grandmother was an avid movie collector, and we watched some weird movies that a lot of people probably have never heard of.
I know that's weird.
Yeah. But so the whole trivia about that whole scene was this entire scene was an outtake in which John C. Reilly was trying to get the cast and crew to laugh by throwing out the most bizarre, outlandish, imaginary monster he could come up with. Director Jordan Voight Roberts decided that it fit in with Skull Island's bizarre ecology and kept it. In a later interview, Voight Roberts said he wanted to include the giant ant in a scene but couldn't due to budget constraints.
Yeah, if you get a chance when this gets over, go Google like a scene from them and just listen to the sound they make. It literally is giant ants that sound like birds.
Well,
so like entirely ad-libbed, but like he's spot on.
That's
good movie too, by the way.
I think I've heard of it. It's an old one, right?
54.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Watched it on our movie night.
We haven't done them yet. No.
Not them.
No.
So Umbrand, let's talk about. So they Packard and his group are going to find the ammo stash, which then they will try to set up traps and pretty much trying to kill Kong. But Weaver and Conrad, they go up to this cliff, which looks eerily similar to the cliff that you see Kong in the beginning of the film with Marlowe and
it does actually, now you mention it.
And and it was cool because like he comes out of the mist and he's just kind of looking at him, and she kind of interacts with him, which I thought was touching. It's always got to be. It's like it reminds me of the scene in in the Lost World Jurassic Park where Julianne Moore's character is taking pictures of the Stegosauruses and she's got to touch the baby, and Jeff Goldblum's in the back. He's like, yep. She's always got to touch. He's like, you don't got to touch. And that's all I thought about was what she like every time I see a movie where they reach out to touch, whatever creature it is. Cause there's even a scene in the next film that is the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's always that touching moment. We didn't get that in Godzilla though. I thought we were going to get that with, stone face kid there. I can't remember his name cause I don't care. But I thought that was going to happen there. But we didn't get that. So that just made the movie even worse. But yeah, so we get a cool touching moment where it's kind of like, we need to protect Kong. Like, this is like, we have to stand up to Packard and we have to stop this from happening because it's going to destroy everything and we're all going to die. Like, we're literally, if we kill Kong, we're all going to die. It's not even going to matter. You could say it was for, honoring your fallen comrades or whatever, but it's not. It's just stupidity.
No. Yep.
So they have to go intercept Packard, and they do. And then Marlowe and Brooks and San are also show up later too, as they pretty much, everybody's got their guns pulled on everyone. And then all the other soldiers start slowly pointing their guns. Everyone is pointing their guns at Packard. Pretty much it's like, dude, this is just messed up. Oh, wait, we missed Cole's death. We didn't talk about Cole's death.
No, we haven't even been there yet.
Not yet.
No, see, everybody pulls their guns on after the military group does the Battle of Kong.
Oh, okay. I thought I missed that scene.
Because there's a whole scene where they're pouring. I
literally just watched this movie. I apologize.
So did we.
Okay. Blending everything together.
They're pouring the napalm into the lake and.
All that happened. Yeah, before that. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't 100% sure because I'm like thinking about it. I was like, we got to talk about it. But yeah, so they
awesome.
Yeah. So he said, they're pouring napalm into this pond, and he's pretty much trying to find some way to kill Kong, and he knows how big he is. He knows that it's not going to be him just shooting at him. He's got to try to find some way to pretty much bring him to his knees. And Kong sees him, starts charging. He sets off the napalm. It engulfs the entire lake in flames as Kong's in there, literally fur burning, which I thought was really cool. Like that's the thing. They did a great job with the CGI in these films. Like the fact that you see the fur like actually burning, and like after he gets out and he extinguishes himself or he falls to the ground, and then all the flame, like just seeing the charred mess that he is now. And Packard goes into a big giant spiel about how humans are number one, which we aren't. We're terrible. We're all awful.
Yes, we are.
And we are the kings. We are everything. This is where Steve dies.
Yeah. Landsat Steve. Yeah, he gets stepped on.
Yes. This was the one where this is where Samuel Jackson's like, what was it? Do you want to go out there and do something, or do you want to sit on the porch? I was what is this? And the guy's like, I want to get off the porch. And I'm like, oh my God.
I would have stayed on the porch personally.
This guy
such a piece of shit.
And then, he dies. See, he was so unimportant, Umbreon, that I didn't need to talk about it. He sucks. I like the actor. I've seen some things with him, and he's a good actor. I just don't like his character in this film. Listen, when I bash actors, when I bash characters, I'm bashing the character. I'm not bashing the actor.
Yeah.
Well, no, because I love Samuel Jackson, but
Aaron Taylor Johnson is not a terrible actor. He just wasn't good in Godzilla. I just want people
to know
that.
This movie.
100%. They'll be like, it makes no sense, but here it is. Oh my God. I'm sorry, Aaron Taylor Johnson. I'll be your friend.
You were so harsh towards him last week,
bro.
That poor guy was.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit. He's making a lot of money. He's married to a famous director. He's set.
He can't hear you over the sound of his bank account. It's all right.
Yeah, exactly. the coins. He's jumping in there like Scrooge McDuck. He doesn't give a shit. Oh my God. I hope you're kidding, O'Brien, because it's not true at all. Okay, so what we're talking about, so Steve dies. Clearly, it wasn't that important.
Yeah,
it's just trash. And that's when the monster, the beast, the big one.
Yeah, see, I didn't like this part because I thought there should have been a little better entrance for the big one, because he makes it a big part that you don't want to wake up the big one.
Well, that was the thing, is that this whole situation.
Well, I know, but the way they do it, like, this big huge thing with Packard and King Kong, or with Kong, and all of a sudden, like, you just see Marlo go, well, there's the big one.
Yep.
Like, I don't know, I wish the entrance was a little bit more
dramatic. I get you.
So the big one comes out. So here's another thing that was kind of weird, is it is pitch black. It is like midnight, and for some reason the next scene it is bright ass light out, and you're like, wow, that was a fast change. So the big one comes out, everyone runs except for Packard, who then proceeds to walk up to Kong to try to kill him, which just makes me, I was like, why? You could have redeemed yourself in some way, I feel. If you just left and tried to help, like, been like, oh shit. But no, he still tries to go up and he tries to kill Kong, and Kong just literally smashes his fist on him, and that's the end of Packard.
That was my favorite part.
And
I don't know about my favorite part, but it was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, so Kong is kind of recovering, and now it is daytime, and everyone's running or trying to get away to the boat. And Cole decides it's over. Like, I'm going to sacrifice myself, and he takes out 2 grenades and he puts them up, and he's hoping that it eats him, so it would blow it up. But unfortunately, the Skullcrawler is smarter than Cole and smokes him with his tail, and he blows up at a cliff. And I liked Cole, and the way he dies is just so sad, because he was trying to sacrifice himself to help everyone, and he just gets Babe Ruthed out of there. Like, he's just smoked.
Home run.
Even the good characters, man, they don't all get honorable death.
Yeah, I agree on Brown. it was one of those things where a lot of these guys probably thought they were going to die, so he just wanted to at least try to prolong the outcome. Unfortunately, it was not. It was not what he wanted. So and this was the big one, right?
Yeah,
that was chasing them. Yeah, and Kong then fights the big one. He recovers, gets up, he starts fighting it, and then he gets thrown into a bunch of shipwrecks and gets all tangled up in the chains.
Yep.
And this scene right here, I'm a huge God of War fan, and this scene really throws some God of War Jordan Vogt Roberts is a huge video game fan, and he incorporates a lot of video game-esque things into his movies. Of course, he's doing the Metal Gear Solid movie, which is based on a very popular video game franchise. And so I have not read any trivia that this was a reference to God of War, but I just immediately was like, this has to be some sort of, maybe not God of War. I know there's other video games that have that sort of combat, but boy, I was like, hell yeah, I need to play God of War again.
Blades of Chaos, man.
Oh, so good. As you can see, they're hanging up back there.
I like the slow motion they do when he first he throws it.
But the fact that he wraps him around his arms and then he literally just throws it at it with the slow motion of it going by the camera, and it impales the skull crawler, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And he's fighting with it, and there's actually a cool homage where he tries to do what he does to the dinosaur in the in the original and the 2005 film, where he tries to rip its mouth like completely apart, but he ends up not being able to because it breaks out of his grip, and which I thought was crazy. And
I don't know when this comes.
Weaver runs off, right? She's like climbing a mountain. What the hell is she doing?
She goes up there to shoot it in the face with the flare gun.
She shoots in the eye. She shoots in the eye with the flare. Right?
Yeah.
She shoots the skull crawler in the eye. And the skull crawler then hits the mountain.
No, I think Kong throws the skull crawler into the mountain.
Oh, right. And then she falls into the water.
Yep.
And it shows the slow descent of her going down. And then you see Kong's hand go down and scoop her up, which then is crazy because this next part, I'm like, I want to know how the hell he had her in his hand, not squishing her in his hand, and he's literally punching this thing and doing shit with her in it. Like, it was nuts. So he's fighting the skull crawler, the big one, of course, with like both hands as he has Weaver clutched in one of his fists, and also. And then the skull crawler, knowing that she's in his hand, bites onto his hand to try to eat her, but also try to attack him at the same time. And that's when he proceeds to shove the more of his arm down the skull crawler's throat and rips out everything.
We should bring up the fact that
the tongue are wrapped around his arm.
Right.
The skull crawler has his tongue.
And it was like pulling him in. Like he got his hand out, and then the tongue wrapped around, pulled it back in. So that's when he thought, I just want to know how he shoved his hand down its throat with her in it, opened his hand without her falling out of it, proceeded to grab then all of the insides of this thing and then pull it out. This man is very talented. The Kong is a talented dude.
You should bring up the fact that the only reason that Kong had time to save Weaver was because the boat was shooting them.
Right, it was shooting. Yeah, it was shooting at it. Yeah, which was really cool. But but this whole thing with him with Kong having her in his hand while he's fighting is definitely a throwback to the original Kong and Kong 2005, where there's a couple fight scenes actually where he's holding on to what's her name? The character in
that's the actress.
Fay Ray.
Well, her character Fay Ray is the actress.
The original actress, right?
One,
yeah, but I can't remember what her name is.
I don't remember her name either.
But yeah, there's a couple scenes where Kong is holding on to her as he's fighting, a giant creature. So it was a cool throwback to those films. He then puts her down. Her and Conrad get back to embrace, get back together. Everybody's happy.
But he has to save the camera first before he goes over to her.
He grabs the
I'm
camera.
like,
I was
what
like,
the
why?
fuck?
Who gives a shit? But then you later find out that they use a lot of that some of these pictures are used in a film we'll talk about in a couple weeks. And Darrow, thank you, Umbreon, appreciate that. But yeah, so yeah, they have to show him grabbing the camera, and then he gets with her and makes sure she's okay, and they embrace. I liked the fact that they didn't like have them kiss.
Yeah, it really wasn't much like blatant romance.
No, there was.
Cool.
I mean, I feel like they were like friends. They were trying to survive. I mean, that's kind of the ultimate thing is they were just trying to be, they were helping each other to survive. And yeah, I think they get in a relationship off, outside of this movie. If someone writes like writes some sort of fan fiction or something with it, then whatever. But yeah, I'm glad that it wasn't a romance. It's not like they got together and kissed. I was like, that would have been just kind of dumb. I don't like when they do that, especially characters who don't have that connection.
That's not the time and place. I mean, you're so at this point, you're in so much fear that you just almost got eaten by this lizard thing.
Yeah.
No, let's go have dinner.
Yeah. Hey, you want to go out sometime? It's like I'm covered in blood and I just almost died a few times.
That was a good time, wasn't it?
It's great.
Good first date.
Now, and Kong Kong walks away. He's like, my job is done here. He starts walking away. But then you hear the more helicopters coming in, which I love the scene where the helicopters are coming in. You get a nice close up of them coming through the storm. Everybody's happy. And then, it shows them, then it pans back out and Kong is like, are you serious, bro? You're going to bring more of these things? And he beats his chest, which I love. And I love because the fact that they keep all the detail of all of his burns, everything that he has gone through, and he is just beating his chest and he lets out a roar as it zooms into a reflection of his eye of the helicopters coming in. I just love that shot. It's so good.
What made me think when you were talking about the hand thing before, when he's holding her, he is actually holding her in the hand that he hurt. So it brings back that whole thing of his wounds.
Yeah, we cut up on the helicopter blade. Yeah, I was going to mention that too.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's a good point. So I love the shot of it, like him doing his thing, and it zooms in on his eye, and it shows the reflection of the more helicopters coming in. And then it goes black, and then we get a touching reunion scene with Marlowe and his family, which I felt was just so unnecessary. It was so dumb, to be honest. I did not like this at all. I just thought it was unnecessary. I liked Marlowe a lot. I liked his character, but like the fact of like, do we really need to see this? I don't know. That was just my opinion. I wasn't a huge fan of this scene.
You have no heart.
Yeah, that's it. That's 100% it. I just hate good things, I'm also wondering, like, did she get remarried? Like, did she really wait for him for 28 years? Like,
if you're really in love with someone, would you wait? If they never found the body?
If they never found the body? Oh, that's
a good
they
were really young, weren't they, when he was...
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it was World War II. A lot of these guys that were in the military were right out of high school.
But
so
they did,
like 18, 19 years old.
Like, right. So maybe... I don't know.
Okay, you got me there. It's a lot of times, a lot of these, widows didn't get remarried in that time, especially if he was supposedly dead in the 40s.
It's not like nowadays when everybody divorces like 40 times.
Right. So yeah, you got a good point, Umbrand. Thanks. Whatever. I'm just a heartless person. So we get the whole reunion scene, and then him watching a Cubs game, eating a hot dog with a beer in his hand, which is, I guess that was a cool thing. And then we get the credits, and then we get an after credit scene of Conrad and Weaver in like an interrogation room. And they're like, what the frick are we doing here? And then Brooks and San come in, and they start talking about how there's more creatures out there. And they start talking about, do they talk about Hollow Earth in this scene?
Yeah. Yeah, well, no, I don't remember in this scene if they do, but they mentioned it a couple times earlier in the film.
Yeah,
but,
they
I
mentioned
don't know
it
about at this scene.
before they go.
Honestly, we didn't even watch the post-credit scene. Like this viewing, I knew it was there. I kind of know what happened, so I was like,
Right.
we won't watch
Post-credit scenes. Post-credit scenes for me, if I've seen it once, I don't need to see it again because I know it's there. I know what happened is usually they're only like a minute long, anyways. But yeah, they talk about Hollow Earth. They talk about how there's other there's other creatures like Kong out there. And then they show the cave drawing of Godzilla fighting King Ghidorah, which is just badass, and it just gets you super pumped up for Godzilla King of the Monsters. Like, I was recently listening to a podcast. Well, I listened to a podcast called In Review. It's by Kind of Funny. And they were doing the Monsterverse movies, and they lambasted King of the Monsters, and I don't know why. I was very sad. A lot of them said it sucked, and I was like, this movie's good. So I can't wait to talk about it myself.
Babies.
I know, right? But yeah, that is Kong Skull Island. Whew, what a movie. I love this movie. I've said it many times already. There are, like I said, we're gonna deep dive into every movie that we review, and we're gonna talk about the things that we don't like. But in the end, I love this movie. I'm not super picky when it comes to like what I enjoy about a movie, but I feel for the sake of the show, I will nitpick certain things that maybe were just kind of, in reality, kind of dumb. But overall, this movie's definitely one of my favorites of the four, the Monsterverse movies. So yeah, what did we? Oh yeah, last week we ranked the main characters of the Monsterverse, and we started with Aaron Taylor Johnson, he's automatically number 4. I don't think he's ever going to be coming out of that spot. But here's the thing: who's the main character of this movie?
I would say Tom Hiddle, like Conrad. I'd only say that because I don't actually know. I don't really have a good defense about that, but that's what I chose.
If you go by the 4 main points of the film, or the main points of the film, I would say it's Conrad and Weaver. Was it Packard? That was Samuel L. Jackson, and then Marlowe, because they're the 4 main actors in the film. You got the guy that crash landed, the mercenary that hired her as the anti-war person, and the warmonger and the other guys are just side characters. I guess you could say Rhonda. You might keep Randa in there too, because he kind of started. He kind of got the ball rolling there. So at least those 5.
If we take all of these, so we'll take all of these characters right now. We'll count them all as main characters because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of these characters you see a lot. Like, it's not like you see certain characters for like a little bit and then you never see them again. You see all these characters for most of the film. It's not like you have it's not like it's Tom Hiddleston and Weaver and that's it. It's whoever's in that group, and they all interact with each other pretty much the entire time.
All right, so we said there's 5.
So yeah, there's quite a bit.
So I'm putting Packard at the bottom.
No. We got to rank this as a group compared to Aaron Taylor Johnson, which is automatically number 4. Meaning we're gonna put this group at number 1 for right now until next week when we.
Oh, it's just a group of actors.
Okay. Yeah, why not? Because we can't pinpoint the number 1 main character of this movie, like the lead character, human character, of course. I think
the lead monster is definitely the birds.
Yeah, the birds.
All right, so we have all these guys at number 1, and we have Aaron Taylor Johnson at number 4. And now we're gonna rank the bad kaijus. Can we call these skull crawlers kaijus? Are they considered a kaiju? Okay,
you could if you want to. Why not?
So we're gonna rank the bad kaijus of the Monsterverse. So last week we talked about the Mutos. They're number 1, of course, because it was the first movie we reviewed. Are the skull crawlers better than the Mutos?
Their name definitely not.
We'll start with DNA Gaming. What do you guys think?
What?
I say yeah, but only because
you just wanted to say yeah.
No, I don't know. I thought the Muto were weird, but just yeah. Go away. You've been bothering me the whole time. I guess I like And now this is going to be contradicted. I like the weirdness of the skull crawlers. I don't know. I don't know. I just think. Don't ask me.
Just say, you don't need an excuse. Just say, I like these guys
Can
better.
you vote on what you think? You're like, I don't know.
I think maybe yes, no.
All right. What do you think? What do you think, Nemesis? Oh no, go.
We're probably
go
a
ahead.
split decision.
Okay, sorry. I was like, I have an opinion on this matter.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the skull crawlers, while not as dynamic for having the relationship the Mutos have as like a core element of the film, I think like design wise, combat wise, everything, I like the skull crawlers better. They actually appear more in the film franchise than the Mutos do. Technically, they appear more. And little trivia here I wanted to throw out earlier. The skull crawler design, I was trying to figure out where to factor this in. Don't worry, let's knock something over. If you remember the old 33 Kong movie, or you probably remember from 2005, the old the log scene, the log bridge scene where Kong like knocks the log bridge off with everybody's on it, and they fall down into the pit with the spiders in the 2005 movie.
Yep.
Well, that in the original 33 movie where he was knocking people off that bridge, the main guy swings down to a little area underneath the side of the bridge to like hide from Kong, and Kong's like trying to reach at him or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, underneath of him, climbing up one of the vines, is a lizard that's just got 2 forearms, no back legs, climbing up. That was the original concept for the skull crawler from 1933. He took that design for a creature that just appeared like 2 seconds in the movie, and that was the basis of the skull
really
crawler.
cool. I like, yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. So
yeah, that's it. Yeah, skull crawler is
so you're saying skull crawler's better than Mutos. Gotcha.
Yes.
Right. So we got 1 vote for yes, 1 vote for. So are you saying no?
I like the skull crawlers better than the Muto.
Okay, so we got 2 for yes. Chat, I'm sorry if you don't agree, but we're doing a vote based on the 4 of us here. So if it doesn't go your way, that's just how this game works. Nemesis, hit me.
All right, so the only thing I have to say is that the name Muto and Skullcrawler, I like the name is more catchy as Muto, but for the actual creature itself, I think the Skullcrawlers for me is I like it more.
Oh boy.
I think I like the name Muto, like Skullcrawler. I feel like that it was
okay. So you're saying Muto? You're saying Muto?
No, I'm saying I like Skullcrawlers more. I just don't like I just don't like the name as much as Muto.
This is a toss up. I think they're kind of even. I think the skull crawlers are really cool. I like the design of them. I love the whole backstory of like what they're doing and like Kong having to protect the island from them. The Mutos I think are a lot more menacing because they're bigger and they cause more destruction. And so I'll be the outlier here. I'll say Muto. I'm gonna say Muto over Skullcrawlers, but it's good by a very small margin. But it doesn't matter because I'm outbeat 3-1. So right now the list for bad kaiju is at number 1 is Skullcrawlers, number 2 is Mutos. But that could change next week because we got a lot. But we have one that will be the king of the bad kaiju, no pun intended. So I hope you guys are excited.
It's all about Kevin.
Yes. And last but not least, let's vote on the films. So right now, our only movie on the list is Godzilla at number 1. What are your guys' thoughts on is Kong Skull Island better than Godzilla?
By far.
Dan?
Would you stop it?
By far. The thing I'm gonna say about this, I'll do a quick synopsis. Why I think it's better is it's a short movie. It's shorter than 2014. It's like just under 2 hours, which I think is perfect for these kind of movies.
Yep.
Not everything 2.5, 3 hours.
Yep.
But I think the thing I like about it is it starts off as this expedition. You get really good build up to at the beginning of the movie.
Yep.
All the characters I think are strong, even though I know you don't like Samuel L. Jackson, but he did his damn job good for you to fucking hate him. So like he did a good job. The villain could be just unmemorable and you just not care.
Right.
I love all the characters in this movie for the most part. And like once it got to the island, like it was just like pretty much nonstop action. I think the flow was great, and I think this is the reason why it needs to be number 1.
Nemesis?
I like what he said. I like it.
All right.
I feel like I can't say it much better because I feel the same way.
It's going to be unanimous. At the end of this is going to be I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, this is definitely better than Godzilla. Like every point that you had, Dan, was nailing it right on the head. Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson. Listen, I say I disliked his character, but it's Samuel L. Jackson. I can't hate Samuel L. Jackson. Like
I love
awesome.
Samuel L. Jackson.
But
I
just
also
was a
I
character
also
that
feel
wasn't as memorable to me as some other ones that he's done. But yeah,
the more we talk about it, though, it's like I hate his character in the movie, but I feel like it now that we talk about it, I think they did that on purpose, because look at us talk about how much we hate him, but we're not, it catches your eye, like his character catches your eye, because it gives you a reason to talk about him.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so the list now is Kong Skull Island at number 1 and Godzilla 2014 number 2. But that could all change next week, as next week we review Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Boy, I'm excited to watch this movie for a third time in the last 3 weeks.
I definitely have to rewatch it. It's been a little while.
Every week on the Saturday night before we review the movie, I will be doing a movie or a movie night over on the XP Fam Discord. I'll be throwing the movie on there. If you guys want to hop in and watch it, it'll be there. If you don't, it's all good. But I wanted to throw it up for anyone who is interested in seeing the movie that we will be reviewing, so you guys could talk and chat or whatever. But yeah, that will be, I'll just throw it up there. If you guys want to join the Discord, I will throw that in chat now. Click on that link if you want to join in and watch it next week. But we will be back here next Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time to talk about Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I hope you all had a great time. Thank you so much for being here again. Umbreon, thanks for hanging out and chatting. And it was great having you here and throwing some knowledge in here. Thunder Ronin dropping those 10 biddies, and Defiant Spartan, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. But yes, thanks again, everybody. Thanks to DNA Gaming for being here.
Thank you.
Can't wait to have you guys on next week.
No.
And yeah, we'll see you all again soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.